arm should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Nuts, bolts, and cotter pins should be present and tight. Drag link should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Nuts, bolts, and cotter pins should be present and tight. Torque arm should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Through bolt should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Airbag should not be spongy to the touch and free of any visible holes or leaks. Airbag mounts, top and bottom, should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Brake chamber should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Brake hose should not be torn, frayed, loose, or leaking. Brake pads should be present, not worn dangerously thin, free of any oil or grease. A brake rotor should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose, free of any oil or grease, and free of grooves. My hub oil level should be full. The hub oil seal should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Lug nuts should all be present and tight. No signs of running rust that would indicate a loose lug nut. Rims should not be cracked, bent, or broken, and free of any illegal welds. If I had a tire pressure gauge, I would check for proper tire inflation. My tire should be free of any cuts, gouges, or abrasions. My tread depth should be a minimum of 430 seconds. Splash guard and mud flap should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. My axle runs, or my frame runs from axle to axle, and the cross members run from side to side. They should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Should not be missing, and no illegal holes or welds. Airbags, front and rear, should not be spongy to the touch and free of any visible holes or leaks. Airbag mounts, top and bottom, front and rear, should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Hydraulic shocks, front and rear, should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Torque arms should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Through bolts should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Brake chamber should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Brake hose should not be torn, frayed, loose, or leaking. Brake pads should be present, not worn dangerously thin, and free of any oil or grease. Rotor should not be cracked, bent, broken, free of any oil or grease, and no grooves. Axle seal should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Lug nuts should all be present. No signs of running rust, which would indicate a loose lug and tight. The rim should not be cracked, bent, or broken, and no illegal welds. If I had a tire pressure gauge, I'd check for proper tire inflation. The tires should not have any cuts, abrasions, or gouges. My tread depth should be a minimum of 230 seconds. My air gap should be free of any foreign objects or debris. My splash guard and mud flap should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. My drive shaft and U-joint should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose, free of any foreign objects or debris.
I don't think that one locked over there because I tried to lock it, it wouldn't lock.
My coolant tank should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Cap should be present and tight. My sight glass, if I can see coolant in it, it's full. If I can't see coolant, I need to add some. Door hinge should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Door shocks should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. My exhaust should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Should not make any excessive noise while the engine is running. Belt-driven alternator should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. And the belt should not be torn, frayed, and no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. Belt-driven water pump should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. And the belt should not be torn or frayed and no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. Check my oil level, take my dipstick, pull it out. Wipe it off, pull it back, put it back in, pull it back out. It should read between add and full. My hoses should all not be torn, frayed, loose, or leaking. My wiring should not be torn, frayed, and free of any corrosion. All my nuts, bolts, and clamps should all be present and tight. I would do an overall inspection, check underneath for leaks. Power steering reservoir should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose, leaking, and should be full. Power steering hoses should not be torn, frayed, loose, or leaking. Gear-driven power steering pump should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. And gear-driven air compressor should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. My DEF tank should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking, and the cap should be present and tight. I would do all the inspections on this side the same as I did that side. Fuel tank should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. Cap should be present and tight. I check underneath for leaks. My hydraulic shock should not be cracked, bent, broken, loose, or leaking. And I would check the rest of this side the same as I did the other side. Mirror should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Should be clean, free of any stickers or decals that would obstruct my view. Door hinges, top and bottom, should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Door handles should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. And the door should open and close freely. My flooring should not be spongy, free of any foreign objects or debris, not excessively worn. Seat belt should not be torn or frayed. It should latch and unlatch properly. If you have an ABC fire extinguisher, it should be securely mounted and full, indicated by the yellow arrow and the green. I have 3 reflective triangles. Would you like to see them? They'll say no. We do not carry spare fuses on this bus because we have circuit breakers that are located up here. My handrails and stanchions should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. My seats should not be excessively worn or loose, securely mounted. And check all the seats and handrails all the same. We'll check this door, same as I did the one up front. Check this flooring and the steps, the same as I did up front. Bus is equipped with emergency roof hatch. To operate it, I would turn the latch to exit. I push up, push out. Bus is also equipped with 6 emergency window exits, indicated by the red handles and the placards. To operate them, I pull it down on the handle, push out at the base of the window. I am now about to begin my safe start, but before I do, I have 4 lights that are going to come on and go off when I start the coach. They are no charge, ABS, high coolant tip, low oil pressure. My foot's on the service brake, coach is in neutral, parking brake is set. It's now safe for me to start my bus. My 4 lights went out. It's now safe for me to operate my bus. My mirrors are properly adjusted for me. My front door opens and closes properly. My rear door opens and closes properly. My hazards indicators are working inside and out. Left turn indicators working inside and out. High beam indicators working. Right turn signals working inside and out. My windshield is clean, not cracked, bent, broken. No stickers or decals that would obstruct my view. My washers properly, and the wipers are working on low, medium, and high. My auxiliary washers are working, and it works on low, medium, and high. My defroster works on low, medium, and high. It also works down on the floor. My air pressure gauge is in a normal range. It's working properly. My horn's working properly. My DEF gauge is working properly, and the warning light is not on. This coach is equipped with a wheelchair ramp for the handicapped and elderly to operate it. I take this switch, turn the power on, take this switch, flip it up to deploy, down to stow. The coach is also equipped with a kneeler to operate it. I take this switch, down to kneel, up to raise. Now I'm going to do my service brake test. I'm going to drive the coach forward at about 5 miles an hour. I'm going to apply my service brake. The coach should not pull to the left or the right. It should come to a complete stop. The coach came to a complete stop, now pull to the left or the right. That part of my test is working properly. Now I'm going to do my parking brake test. I'm going to let the coach idle forward, pull my parking brake. Coach should come to a complete stop. Coach came to a complete stop. That part of my test is working properly. Now I'm taking the bus up to Governor Cutout. Now I'm going to begin my air brake test. I am going to hold my foot on the service brake for 1 minute. In that 1 minute, I should not lose more than 3 psi. Will you time me? Eventually, they'll tell you go ahead and continue. I did not lose more than 3 psi. That part of my test is working properly. Now I'm going to fan my brakes down to around 60 psi, and my low air warning light should come on. My low air warning light came on at about 70 psi. That part of my test is working properly. Now I'm going to fan my brakes down to between 20 and 40 psi, and my parking brake should pop out. Okay, my parking brake popped out at about 40 psi. That part of my test is working properly. Now I'm going to check my exterior lights. Will you assist me outside the bus in the front? Hazards. Left turn. Low beams. High beams. Right turn. Will you assist me in the rear? Hazards. Left turn. Right turn. Brakes. Go outside and check my marker lights and clearance lights. My clearance lights should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. They should be working properly and the proper color. My side markers should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. The proper color and working properly. My My reflectors should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. My reflective tape should not be worn or torn. This one's torn. I would put that on my defect card. Rear clearance lights should not be cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Working properly and the proper color. My tail lights should all be not cracked, bent, broken, or loose and working properly. Reflectors, not cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Side markers, not cracked, bent, broken, or loose. Working properly. This concludes my pre-trip inspection.